Good morning, everyone. I'm Tricia Mansfield, Senior Public Relations Specialist with the Department of Workforce Services, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to today's virtual training series, Registered Apprenticeships in Action, Building Wyoming's Workforce from the Ground Up. This series was created based on feedback, and we're excited to bring you the topics that matter to you most. So be sure to check out our website at dws.wyo.gov/VTS. We'll be dropping that link in the chat for any upcoming sessions, registration, and recordings of past events. Today's session is being recorded, and all materials will be available on our site within a few days. If you do have questions during the presentation, please just pop them in the chat and we'll be sure to get to them at the end of the hour. All right, let's get started. I am excited to introduce our Wyoming apprenticeship team, Naomi Childers, our apprenticeship program lead, and Robert Fife, who is our grant specialist. So let's give them a warm welcome as they get today's panel underway. Naomi, I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you, Tricia. I just wanted to say welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're really excited about the work being done in apprenticeships today. And we're excited to kind of share some of that information with you from the perspective of our panelists. And I'll go ahead and pass it over to my coworker, Robert.
Good morning, everyone. Like Naomi said, I'm Robert Fife. I'm a grant specialist on Naomi's team, and I have the privilege of introducing Wyoming's Office of Apprenticeship Director, Jason Demo.
Good morning, everybody. Jason Demo here from Department of Labor. I am your state director for the Office of Apprenticeship. I'm here today as your moderator, and I'd like to introduce our panelists. So we'll go ahead and start with Tom.
Hey, I'm Tom Holt. I'm here at Memorial Hospital of Converse County. And as you know, we have a hospital here in Douglas, and we also have a sister hospital, Summit Medical Center in Casper. I serve as the programs manager for many things here at the hospital. We are particularly important. We care a lot about developing students. So we have students from PAs to high school students and on. So I'm happy to be here.
All right, thank you, Tom. Go ahead and go over to Chase.
Good morning. I'm Chase Christensen. I'm superintendent of Sheridan County School District number 3. But for the apprenticeship, I'm the state coordinator for the Wyoming Association of Secondary School Principals. Through the Principals Association, we have developed an apprenticeship program and a registered apprenticeship to provide support for teachers who have a desire to become leaders in education. It's only been around a couple of years that a principalship has been available for an apprenticeship, but our association has taken advantage of that to help build the pipeline for teachers to become leaders and continue to build great principals to lead schools in the state.
All right, thank you. Laura, are you here?
Of course I'm here.
All right, Loris, you're up.
Hi, I'm Laura Baker. I am with Cyber Wyoming, and we started the first technical registered apprenticeship program in the region and have expanded it now from just one registered apprenticeship program, which is cybersecurity support technician, to 3 others. We focus primarily on technical education, but we do have one for business advisors called the Cybersecurity Business Counselor for small businesses, and it is to allow business advisors to upskill. So thanks for having me here today, Jason. Back to you.
All right, thank you. And lastly, for our panelists, we have Brandon and Luke from Advanced Comfort Solutions.
Hello,
Sorry, I
good
wasn't
morning,
sure who.
everybody. You really set us up there, Jason. No one was sure who to go first. I'm Luke Sarn. I'm the owner and CEO of Advanced Comfort Solutions. We're a mechanical contracting, construction related sector business in southern Wyoming. Brandon, who is also on the call, is with me on the team, and we are just we're super excited to be here to discuss anything that we can do to help moving the needle forward in educating the future workforce. Brandon can go on at more length than me in regards to where our apprenticeship currently stands regarding how many folks we have in the registered apprenticeship. But I think what else might be super valuable to the group is the other things we're doing outside of registered apprenticeship that is allowing us to recruit a future pipeline of workers. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brandon. Thank you.
So I'm Brandon Giesler. I'm also with Advanced Comfort Solutions, as pointed out. I'm the training coordinator. What I've done is I grew up in the apprenticeship that Advanced Comforts had, and I've worked with, completed my apprenticeship, and then I've worked with outside community projects to recruit and grow our apprenticeship. So, as Luke pointed out, we are about 20 deep. I know we're kind of jumping ahead of a question there, but I just wanted to answer that. Right now, we have 20 registered apprentices in our program that we're working with, and we're hoping to recruit a lot more. So,
All right. Well, thank you guys. That's our panelists for today. I'll go ahead and get things kicked off. And what I want to do first, before we get into the questions for the panelists, is kind of go over what is a registered apprenticeship. A registered apprenticeship is a structural occupational training program that combines on-the-job training with related instruction, in which the workers you learn practical and conceptual skills required for any occupation, or craft, or trade. All right, and then first of all, there's a couple myths surrounding apprenticeships. Apprenticeship is much more than construction. As we see with panels, we have a very diverse panelist team here, and that's also answers one of the myths. It's just for construction, and that's not just simply not true. Another one is it's not all for unions. A registered apprenticeship is for both union and non-union. All right, so dig a little bit more deeper into registered apprenticeships. Every apprenticeship has 5 components. First up is the employers are the foundation of the program. They provide the jobs. At the Department of Labor and Workforce Services, we provide you structure. Along with the structure, that's another component of it. Structured supervised on-the-job learning in a work setting is another component. Number 3 is job-related classroom or academic instruction. So there is a minimum required or recommended RTI. That's your book work, not your on-the-job learning, but your actual book work that's associated with every single registered apprenticeship program. Number 4 is your reward for your skills gained. So with every registered apprenticeship, as you move forward and you progress with your on-job learning and you complete your related training instruction, you are rewarded for your skills. And what I mean by that is you are increased for your wage progression. So wage progression is required with every single registered apprenticeship program. And lastly, it's an industry recognized credential. So you can take this anywhere. Once you finish your apprenticeship and you're considered a journeyman in whatever trade, craft, or occupation, you can take it anywhere in the country with you. All right, and another one is I hear a lot is a certificate of completion, which the Department of Labor issues. Is this just a piece of paper? It's just not true either. So it's a recognized certificate, and it's also recognized by WIOA, which is the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, and it's recognized as a post-secondary credential, which is huge. And also it counts to in some certain in colleges, they will recognize it for credits, and you can portable across the nation again, and it is stackable, so you can go from apprenticeship to apprenticeship if you wish. All right, just a few examples of what is an apprenticeship occupation outside of construction and your traditional trades. We have healthcare, we have energy, your advanced manufacturing, IT, hospitality, education, finance, agriculture, and the list goes on and on. So as of today, we have over 1,300 apprenticeship occupations in the U.S. Another little caveat to that, so that if you don't see an occupation on there and you're interested in, you want to create a program, but your occupation is in there, well, contact me, and we do have the capability of creating an occupation. Next up, I would talk about just a few questions I get a lot in this office. First of all is, what does OJT or on-the-job training look like? And what I mean that is like the structure portion of it. So with every registered apprenticeship program, we have 3 basic components. It's time-based, competency-based, and a hybrid approach. And those are what the program chooses before creation and each occupation is registered in. Another one is is what does RTI look like? Your art related training instruction. What this is it's just a list of education and classes that's required to be taught and learned by the apprentice as you move through. It could be front loaded, it could be parallel, or it can even be segmented. And also with both on-job learning and your RTI, if you come in with credit, we can credit you that experience. So you don't have to start from scratch. Each program has different links. I get a lot of questions on program links. So it depends on your occupation. One occupation might only take a year to learn, while when the next one might take 4 to 5. So it depends on your occupation. All right, another thing is every single registered apprenticeship program comes with a set of standards. So this is your Appendix A. Your Appendix A and your standards of apprenticeship, it lays out your work process schedule. These are the tasks that is required on each and every occupation. And it also comes out with the RTI structure. It goes down and it even breaks it down per hours of in each year of your apprenticeship, what the apprentice will go through. And it also goes into your wage schedule. So your wage schedules are progressive in every single program. What that means is typically what I see is you have a journeyman rate, and then a certain percentage of that is your apprenticeship rate. So you start out at, let's just say 50% of your apprenticeship of your journeyman rate, and then you progress as the years go on and the evaluations. And as long as you're meeting your RTI and you're on the job learning and your boss, your employer, they seem that you're grasping the material and you're moving on, you will get the wage increased. And this is a big thing that separates the traditional apprenticeship or non-registered apprenticeships and the registered apprenticeship. So you're registered, it has a lot of regulations, it's regulated, and there's a bunch of requirements that are not in your non-traditional. All right, so the players in registered apprenticeship. So number one, there are 3 players in every apprenticeship program. So your program sponsor is your number one. So this is your administrator of the program. It can be your employer. It could be another entity such as a community college. Number 2 is your employers. These are the provider of your on-the-job learning. This can be a group of people, it can be a foundation of the program. It could be also community colleges or another entity. And number 3 is your RTI provider. Again, your employer can be it as well. Community college, joint apprenticeship training, committee, or another entity. So those are your players of every registered apprenticeship program. Benefits of every registered apprenticeship program. It's just earn as you learn. For career seekers, it's earn as you learn. No student debt. You gain workplace relevant skills in the field of your choice. Long-term career and greater earnings potential. It's a huge thing, especially no debt. Benefits for employers, if you're an employer out there. Lower the cost of recruitment, create a diverse and highly skilled workforce. You're creating pathways, productivity and profitability increase, flexible training options. And the big thing here is your liability costs will get reduced and you'll maximize your safety. Just example, so you're on a national average for every dollar spent on an employer on an apprentice, you're $1.47 earned. The national average for apprentices for registered apprenticeship, anyways, is $70,000 for your employees. And another big thing is 94% of registered apprentices are employed upon completion of the program. And lastly, another question is for our veterans out there, your GI Bill. You can use your GI Bill for Department of Labor registered programs. That means you can come in and you can use your and you will get paid, you'll get a stipend, and you'll make a lot more money than your normal first year apprentice. And there's also benefits such as your bookwork would be paid for and supplies. And that's all I got for what is registered apprenticeship. Now what we'll do now is we'll move over into the questions for the panel. So I see a few questions in the chat. We'll get to those. And as far as a slideshow, no, this is just my slideshow for notes. But I can share it with you if you want it. So what we'll do now is we'll go through panel to panel, and I'll have each of our panelists answer each question. So first up, we'll go to Tom. Tom, can you please just for the audience, how did you hear about registered apprenticeship? What persuaded you to become a registered apprenticeship? And how long have your program been around?
Okay, so how did I hear about it? Actually, the chief HR officer at the time said, I challenge you to write this grant and then get it awarded, and then let's start a program. And so that's really where we found out about it. And How long has it been around? Well, if you didn't include the time it took to do some research, find out, and get the ball rolling, we've been around about a year, and I'm happy to say we just graduated our first group of people. So I know that question will be coming up. But just so you know, we have a philosophy here as we grow as a hospital. Um, we want to be the best healthcare organization in the state of Wyoming, and that's our vision. And so to do that, you really have to recruit great physicians and other people. But if you can't find them, you got to grow them. So our reason, the why behind it, is that we really want to recruit from within and find people that are just go-getters. And so we're starting with our surgical tech program, and then we're off and running from there.
All right, sounds good. So, Tom, can you describe the process you went through with registering your program?
Yeah, so it took a little bit of research. I first reached out to our local here in the town of Douglas. We do have a Department of Workforce Services, and they actually directed me. They had some paperwork or some flyers, and that directed me to the website. I went to the website, connected with actually people that are on this panel now or on the chat now, and then did research like the Department of Labor, um, and just started a checklist and made sure I went through those steps properly.
Well, thank you, Tom. Hey, Laura, you're up. Can you please explain your process or how'd you hear about the registered apprenticeship? What persuaded you to become a RAP and the process you went through?
A wrap. I love that. It's RAP, not WRAP for those of you in the audience. There's a lot of terminology around apprenticeship, and it took me a while to learn it. So don't, if you're a little bit lost, don't worry. There's plenty of resources out there at the Department of Workforce Services or one of us. We decided to create a technical apprenticeship program partially for two reasons. One, because the members of Cyber Wyoming are technical companies and they're always struggling to find good people. And it really does help them if we provide a structured learning plan for them and do all the paperwork for them as well. But the second reason was since 2018, we've run Wyoming cybersecurity competition for small businesses. And this one of the things that we really emphasize in this program is you have to create your cyber team. Even if you're a sole proprietor, you have to create your technical cyber team, because that might include an accountant, an attorney, and your insurance agent, but it also includes a technical provider. Even if you don't need somebody today as a sole proprietor, you might need somebody tomorrow. So if nothing else, have coffee with them. And so by creating this demand through that other program, the cybersecurity competition, we needed to have the wave of the workforce following it and make sure that we had well-trained IT specialists and cybersecurity support technicians behind it. And what was the second question you asked me, Jason? Did I answer all of it?
Oh, well, just can you describe the process you went through when you registered your
Oh,
program?
yeah. It took me about 6 months because I had no idea what this terminology was, and the previous state director really was a lot of help. I know Jason's taken on that role and has helped a lot of people spin up their programs today. But it was thinking about apprenticeship in a different manner. So, you've heard about apprenticeship for electricians, but you haven't really heard about it for office workers. And they even have apprenticeships for HR specialists now and teachers, as you'll hear about later. So it's not just for electricians anymore, which I love. And so it took us about 6 months to kind of create the standards, think about what we wanted these new collar jobs to look like, because they're not really, they're not really the white collar or the blue collar. They're kind of in the middle. And we really needed to think about what skills we needed to put into it. And we spent quite a bit of time on that. And so by doing all that paperwork as a sponsor of the apprenticeship program, now we've done that paperwork for the employers that join and want to actually use the training program. And all they have to do is read through our standards that we've created with the Department of Labor, agree to them, and then fill out a 2-page form. So we made things a lot easier by going through the hard work for that 4 to 6 months. And I really am glad that we did, because it's been a great community to work in.
Well, thank you, Laura.
Yeah. You're welcome. Who's coming up
All
next?
right.
Should
All
I?
right. Speaking of teachers, Chase, you're up.
Perfect. I really got to understand the apprenticeship system through a relationship I had with some other superintendents in the state of Wyoming, and specifically one at Shoshone had stood up an apprenticeship program for teachers and was utilizing that to help grow within hiring paraprofessionals, and then being able to help them through some of the workforce services grants with education grants that helped them get to the point of being a teacher. In the summer of 2023, the Department of Labor made the occupation of principal available for an apprenticeship. And at the same time, I was kind of learning about the whole program for teachers. I saw that. I had a couple teachers in my district who I knew wanted to pursue their administrative degree and become principals. And I thought about the fact that really becoming a teacher or becoming a principal is a natural line up with the idea of an apprenticeship, right? There's some bookwork, some education involved through a related provider, and there's also this idea of spending hours on the job, learning how to do it. So I went through the process of learning how to apply for the apprenticeship program, and I did that initially just for my district, and went through and was able to support a couple of my teachers to get their admin degree. But then decided that it was something that needed to be statewide, so took it to our principals association, and now we've got that set up at the state level where any teacher in the state that's got the support of their principal and their superintendent can apply to our program. And I think a real benefit to that, some of the why for us was that we're able to provide some additional support in terms of mentorship for our apprentices, but we're also opening the door to the possibility for those workforce services grants that can help with the educational cost of becoming a principal. And we understand that pipeline is one that we needed to get opened a little further, and the assistance that we're able to provide, both in terms of the mentorship as well as the financial side, is making it easier for people to move from being principal or being teachers to being a principal.
Well, thank you. Can you just describe a little bit of the process you went through when you registered?
Yeah, I think that process is much the same as what was described by Tom and Laura. A lot of research on the front end, getting to know the acronyms, lots of calls to Department of Labor, and just honestly, I'm more of a break it and learn and then fix it kind of guy. So I filled the forms out and turned them in and got the rejection with a fix this. I fixed it, turned it back in, and had an apprenticeship started.
All right. Well, thank you. All right, Luke, if you can just come on and just tell us about your registered apprenticeship program, what preceded you, and describe the process you went through.
Thank you. Similar to the others, in the construction-related skilled trades portion, apprenticeship is something we were very familiar with, but oftentimes, as mentioned earlier by Laura, I believe, it was electricians, plumbers, HVAC technicians, not all these other professions. But the problem we were having at Advanced Comfort and in our industry was like an accredited skilled training program that we could brag about and have some credibility behind. We were in the sheet metal workers union when I first got into the trade, and they had their own training specific to sheet metal, just like all these plumbers and electricians do as well. But I guess where I'm going with that is just to say, it was about 2011, 2012. We were looking for a way to have a more accredited curriculum and something that we could stand behind. And that's what registered apprenticeship did for us. A lot like Chase, we just kind of went through a process. Michael Broad, the previous director, was just an awesome resource for us. She came walking in and said, "Hey, you guys need this." And I think initially we were really afraid of kind of that perceived government oversight, somebody watching how we were going to be training our people. We were worried about the audit process, and it was kind of scary. Um, but I can assure anyone that's interested in anything like a registered apprenticeship, it's well worth it because um, the pros outweigh the cons, and it's nothing to be scared of at all. Even the audit process yearly has not been a heavy lift for us. The record keeping and all the requirements that registered apprenticeship requires is just, it's not a deal breaker. It's not that big of a step for people. So I think I answered all the questions. And I believe we've had a registered apprenticeship program now since 2012. And it's taken all of those years to get to where we are today. Um, just a little bit better every year.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you to all the panelists for answering those questions. Now that everybody kind of got an overview of what an registered apprenticeship is and heard a little bit about from our panelists, I want to talk about just very briefly what happens after a program gets registered. So what happens after is each program needs to be registered before they can have apprentices. So the apprentice registration, they will be registered after a program's registered. And how it's what we have is what we call a Form 671, and that's apprenticeship agreement. So every apprentice that is interested in becoming an apprentice or one that has been hired on, they will go through and they will answer questions just for information and sign a 671 between you and your employer, the agreement. So that agreement, it's just that's where you get to view what you're going to be learned, your on-the-job learning, and what you're going to be taught for your RTI related training instruction. And also, what's very unique about a registered apprenticeship program is the apprentices get to see the progression through the wage schedule. So they get to see if I do A or B, if I complete all my on-the-job learning, if I complete all my related training instructions, I will be at this wage schedule in a year, 2 years, 3 years, and then at 4 years or more, depending on the program, you get to see what you'll be making as a journeyman or a journey worker. As far as the apprentice tracking, there's a lot to do with the apprentice tracking. You get and this most of it's done on the employer end. Um, it's your hours and how many hours you spend in each task. That's all tracked from your employer. I personally, at the Department of Labor, I don't require to double track with my system. And that's part of the audit process, what Luke was talking about. When I go in, I go in and request certain documents that need to be reviewed. And during every audit process, I will interview certain apprentices. I'll just pick them at random. And that's where we'll talk about how the program's going for you. Are you being evaluated? Are you being treated fairly? And is the employer sticking to the agreement, which that 671, which you signed for registration? And then we'll go from there. That's just real quick follow up. So now what we'll do is we'll get into more questions for the panels. All right, so start up. We'll go with Tom again. Tom, if you could just tell the audience what occupations you have and how many apprentices are you currently in your program, and then along with that, the benefits of that occupation. Are you experiencing any recruitment, retention, funding, just all the above?
Yeah. Um, you always want to recruit and retain. That really matters, and you want to build people up. So I guess so the answer to the first one is we currently have 4 students in our apprenticeship program. I am happy to say that 2 of our students just completed their we are also, by the way, an NCCT, so we're a National Center for Competency Testing. So we have the exam coordinator here, which is me, and then the proctor, which is me, and we basically had the students take the test here. And so we are so excited that we have 2 that are officially, and just like Jason had mentioned with this Appendix B 671, they could definitely see once I'm done, this is what my hourly pay rate is. And so those 2 gals were super pumped. In the OR because they had moved up. So we and then we have 2 here that just completed, and then we have 2 at Summit Medical Center, our surgical center there in Casper. And so currently we have those 2. And then when it comes to recruitment, we are haven't pushed out any further just because we've had enough need for some current MAs medical assistants that are in our systems that hear about this program and then are excited to come in. So I also say that we coordinated with Stat 605 and they helped with our her name's Erin, and they helped with the curriculum piece. And they've that program really helped and basically said they have near 100% pass rate. And so these gals, I will say at our center, we are at 100% pass rate for surgical techs. And where do we want to expand? I will say we want to expand with CRNAs, so certified nurse anesthetists. That's kind of the next pipeline. And then really it goes from there. We just want to grow, and we're only a year in and have already some success. So hopefully I answered your questions. But we're pumped and we're on the
No, it's okay, Tom. I'm going to keep you on here for a minute. I got a few more questions for you. Um, so Tom, do you have any words of advice for anyone on the fence about either registering their own program or any apprentices out there that are on the fence of becoming an apprentice?
Well, I'm gonna say if anybody's on the fence, I would match what Chase had mentioned is that hey, I just have a folder of stuff and I did some research, and when you don't do it right, you just keep going, make those adjustments, submit the form again. I was gonna make a joke and say who is Davis Bacon? Um, anyway, they like all of those things. There's lots of terminology and code you need to have, but it's it's really once you have your Rapids code and all those others, if somebody is interested or wants to do it but are kind of on the fence and want some advice or something, or then reach out to any of these, reach out to me. Everybody else that has helped me was it made it super easy. So I just usually sent an email.
Okay, Tom. I know you guys are a fairly new program, but have you taken any advantage of any of the grants offered by the Wyoming apprenticeship team? And just for the audience knowledge, there's some grants out there that are available that and they're only available to registered apprenticeship programs.
We did. Robert Fife, I probably have emailed him tons of times. So, yeah, absolutely. We took advantage of it. That's kind of what kicked it off. We want to be really smart with our finances, and so anytime we can get some of that soft money, we're super pumped about it. And that really helped us with kickstarting it and really justifying it to our finance department that, hey, we need to do this, and that really covered the cost. And then as we've expanded to our sister hospital, we had other people in HR apply for it and receive it just recently, like within the last few weeks. And so we're just like teaming up to, and we're starting with surgical techs in the OR, but that's just our jump off point. I mean, I could see this with med students, nurse practitioners, physicians assistants, and the like. So we're pumped.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Tom. Laura, up to you. Same thing. What occupations do you have? What benefits do you see? And any words of advice?
Sure. So we have three technical occupations today: IT specialist, cybersecurity support technician, and network architect. And then we have the cybersecurity business counselor, which is for upskilling of business advisors. Um, I already kind of talked about why we created the technical apprenticeship to support the demand that we're creating in the cybersecurity competition. But I think the cybersecurity business counselor one, I mean, it's proprietary to us, which is kind of different. Um, the others, the technical apprenticeships, we share those, nationwide with whoever that asks. They can look at that structured learning plan and they can modify it and do whatever they want. But the cybersecurity business counselor one is proprietary to Cyber Wyoming because we've been calling ourselves cybersecurity business counselors since that 2018 when we started our competition program. And so we're kind of twisting it around now and saying, well, we would like to expand this program by teaching others to do what we do. And we created an online learning portal with a grant that we had. Um, and have a year-long program to upskill business advisors to be able to use cybersecurity advice and in day-to-day conversations with their clients, whether it's about their website, if they're a marketing advisor, or maybe it could be about maybe they're an exit planner and they're helping somebody sell their business and retire. Maybe they need to do some de-risking there in order to get the higher price for the business. So it's a really broad occupation. And we primarily did that because in December of 2022, there was a Small Business Cybersecurity Act that required small business development centers across the nation to have trained cybersecurity business counselors. They have I would say, a level 1 program available to those small business development centers, but a lot of business advisors that don't feel very tech savvy need something more, and so we're more of a level 2 for that. And that's how that evolved. And, I think about these programs as dual certification almost. Um, if you're going for your IT specialist, it flows very nicely with the CompTIA A+ certification that is one of the industry standards for even getting into employment in the industry. If you're if you're going for the cybersecurity support technician, your Security Plus and maybe your Net Plus, you're from CompTIA. If you're doing network architect, maybe you go for the CompTIA Net Plus. And then if you're doing your cybersecurity business counselor, you can get your certified information security manager certification from ISACA after you've had 5 years of experience of cybersecurity business advising. So I really like that part of it, is that dual credit. It's almost like when you have a high school kid and they can also take a college course, and it counts for both. I like that a lot. I think that's really cool. And it's a neat thing about apprenticeship that I think a lot of people forget to talk about. So what other parts did I miss, Jason, on your question?
No, you're fine, Laura. I just so you're in a very unique career field and occupation. With the emerging technology, especially in AI being used in your industry, have you seen any risk of losing jobs to technology?
Actually, I have. I've seen a lot of code, like developers, like programmer job losses, because a lot of AI products like Codex can code now, and they can do it very well and very quickly, and you don't have the recompile. However, on Cyber Wyoming's program is more for hardware support, and AI runs on computers, hardwares. And you still have to plug those things in, and you still have to provide connectivity and user access. And I think in the future, we're going to see these challenge models. So let's just take, I'm going to use Tom as an example, for instance. Let's just take a hospital. And I think in the future, you're going to have a AI challenge model that challenges the doctor to get the right diagnosis. And Tom might want to weigh in on this a little bit. And I think that's going to be really cool. And then in the billing department, you might have a billing AI challenge model that challenges the billing department to get the right code so that they can actually get paid. And so, but these two AI models have to remain separate, and their data has to remain absolutely pristine, especially on the diagnosis model, because somebody could actually die if they get the wrong diagnosis, right? And so these AI models might need to be aware of each other, but they have to be kept separate. And I think that's going to be a big IT push in the future. It's not here today, but I think it will be. And Tom, do you want to weigh in on that a little bit?
Yeah, Western medicine is really good at surgical, right? And our hospital is good at that. We're really great downstream when it comes to if you come to our ER, we're awesome. Definitely with a surgical and ER, that's not something artificial intelligence, at least at this point, could even touch. I mean, you definitely
Yeah.
need that human component. The other thing is that we very much touch on the fact we use AIDIT, so you acknowledge the person, you introduce yourself, you tell them how long it's going to take, and then uh, and then you explain what you're going to do to them or for them, and then you thank them for coming. And so that human interaction is really important. And I challenge, well, I don't know the future, but I challenge that anyone that AI still doesn't have that human touch that I want with my provider. And so midstream is really downstream surgeries, and then ER. Midstream is seeing your primary care physician. And I would say prevention is key. And so I still see that we need human workers interacting with our patients and interpreting that data and knowing that that data is correct. And
Yes.
so, at least to this point, you can use that as a guide. I remember, Laura, you mentioned something. Maybe it'll give them a little more time so I can spend more than 15 minutes. I'm exaggerating slightly
Yeah.
with your physician so that you can talk about how do I apply this in my life. So,
Mhm. Yeah, I think it'll make the doctors and the healthcare providers almost more super. I want to say superhuman, but that's not right, right? Because they're consulting an AI model to make sure they have the right answer. They're ordering these tests that they might have forgotten about because this is a one-off on something really weird that they haven't seen in forever. I mean, we all know patients that have been a bug in a jar before, right? And all the doctors come in and like, ooh, I want to listen to your whatever, and they come in and they're really interested because they haven't seen this before. And we have to remember that all of these providers are also human. And so AI can make them super diagnosers or super this, super that. And because they'll have the information at their fingertips. That's off in the future, but I think it's going to happen. And I think you're absolutely right. It's not going to change your doctor patient relationship, it's going to enhance it and make it better. And I also think that it's going to increase IT jobs in the healthcare industry, or at least maintain them at the very least, because protecting this data is going to be so huge because you're really truly protecting your patients by protecting this data.
All right. Well, thank you.
well said.
Yep. Thanks, Tom. Chase, you're up. You guys are a fairly new program, so just go ahead and tell the audience about your program, your intended occupations, your current occupations, and any words of advice.
Yeah, and our program is a touch older. I did mention the fact that we'd set it up as a district prior to going to the association. So I think we've been going a year and a half. Right now, it is through the Principals Association at the state level. So we are targeting uh, people that would like to become principals, and I think that's really our sweet spot. We're probably going to stay there. I think there are other entities in the state that are working with those that would like to become teachers, and I feel like those are getting built out as well. So hopefully they'll be available to anyone that would like to be a teacher. Really, the benefits that have come from setting a program up, we have had a little bit of a step up in recruitment. We have 5 apprentices, I think, in the program right now, and I graduated 2 through the one that I had previously set up. So we've been through 7. We've been able to secure funding through the WIOA grants and Wyoming Workforce Services for all 7 of those that have assisted with related education for the apprenticeship. And I'd say, in terms of advice, there's really I haven't found much of a downside. Obviously paperwork is something that we've all probably got enough of, but I think that a little bit of a few hours a month in terms of work on the employer side to provide the opportunity and the tunnel to a profession for the employee, and making sure that we've got good people in these professions is important. So, um, challenge has been we operate statewide, so sometimes the staying in touch communication piece has been getting paperwork in on time from our apprentices and making sure that everything's taken care of so that they can be reimbursed through those grant programs has been probably the biggest challenge. I think that everybody's been answering the AI question. There are schools opening up across the country that are AI centric, AI only in terms of their service to students. I think that the vast majority of students are going to continue to need, as Tom pointed out, kind of a human touch, and it's I see that being a big part of education continuing to go forward. But there are also aspects where we absolutely have to be using all available technology to ease the job of a teacher so that they can spend the time in relationship building and classroom development, and for principals so that they can do away with some of the more mundane tasks that AI can pretty easily accomplish and get out there and be in classrooms a little bit more, making teachers better.
No, thank you, Chase. Luke, we'll go to you. You guys have been around for a while in your program. So just what occupations do you have, and how do you define success for your program as it contributes to your longevity?
Luke was going to have me jump in and answer this one.
There you
Um,
go.
Sorry, could I hear that last part of the question again?
You guys have been around for a while. So how do you define success for your program as it contributes to your longevity?
Gotcha. So, success for our program really kind of boils down to one thing, I think, for us is attrition. How many people did we start with 4 years ago, and how many people are we ending with each cycle? And that's really kind of been like I guess, compass guiding us on our changing things to our apprenticeship and everything. What we have found was that if we had like a credential tied to one of our classes during our apprenticeship, that really helped our apprentices take it more serious. Our attendance was better. There was a little bit less eye rolling in the classroom. And so what we did is we took as many credentials as we could find that align up with what we're trying to accomplish in our apprenticeship and just laced them in. So during our time here, you'd get 5 different credentials, your EPA license, your NATE certificates, your OSHA 10, and then limited technician, which is new to our program. We're trying out this year. And then at the end, helping you get your journeyman's license for the trade you're in. So with all that, we were able to kind of watch that kind of morph the classroom a little bit, but it still wasn't fixing all of our problems. So what we found is we needed to get a little bit better on the recruiting end. And it's been a little easier. The struggle with partnering up with people is not so hard because everybody's looking at apprentices and apprenticeships and looking to get involved in trades. So that's really opened up the doors for us. We started working with outside programs, like I mentioned earlier, like Dad's Making a Difference. We put them through our first kind of like boot camp. And what that allowed us to do is start a pre-apprenticeship. And we are able to recruit the right people for our trade. So instead of trying to make everybody a HVAC technician, what we did is we tried to find out what they were passionate about and what they connected with, and then steered them towards that job. And so that was again the first thing we launched in with Dad's Making a Difference, and we found a lot of success through that. So we also were able to partner up with Climb Wyoming and try it with them. Again, we saw a huge success, and that really got the school district to start taking us a little more serious. And they allowed us to come into the schools, recruit seniors for a summer project where we had our own internship, not funded through any program, but just kind of out of our own pocket. And we started with 13 different participants. At the end of the summer, we ended up hiring 8 of them full time. And over a year's time, we're seeing that seven of them have stuck it out and are still together. So we're already seeing kind of like that higher success going into our second year or level 2. So we're excited to kind of keep watching that grow. That also led us into like different ideas, trying to get our education out there sooner so we can get them working in their industries that they pick sooner. So between a joint effort between us, the community college of Laramie County Community College, and Laramie County School District number 1 and Advanced Comfort Solutions, we all got together and came up with a project to be in the classroom this semester and offer this kind of training to seniors and see if we can't get them front loaded with information and get them working sooner in the summer and not so much on a company's dime. So we're excited to see how that unfolds. And then the last thing we're kind of trying to work with is getting before the senior year, kind of getting people to participate more in CTE courses. And then also seeing if we can't find a way to approach it from different angles. So tonight's going to be like the first night that we work with youth alternatives on trying a community service project and seeing if we can't get someone who's fallen into that category credentialed and show them how to, use tools and steer them with like the sense of that community service doesn't always have to be just picking up trash. It can be something like we're going to build like a doghouse and donate that to the animal shelter and see if that can be something that keeps that person from ever getting back on community service and then getting them into CT courses, which later we'll be able to see them maybe show up around here. So what we've tried to do in a nutshell is we've just tried to change everything to make it more appealing to join our courses or join our apprenticeship, and then also trying to find the right people to start it instead of just hoping that the right people show up.
All right, Brendan, I got one more thing for you. Since you grew up in the apprenticeship style, right? You came up from an apprentice up to where you're at now.
Oh yeah.
Can you give us the rundown of your experience on that? Is there anything that you changed from your year one apprentice to now that you're in more of the training role?
So yeah, when I came in, at 2014. So the registered apprenticeship was about going for 2 years here at Advanced Comfort Solutions. I had a journeyman that was able to show me out in the field different tasks and on-the-job learning, and really, I guess, elevate my skills and help me identify like what I could do to fix my mistakes. And what I was able to do from that process is I kind of took what was frustrating about that learning process. So if I struggled understanding something, I would just go and figure out like what was a better way that could have been presented to me from my journeyman. And that's kind of been what's guided me to help shape our apprenticeship into what it is now. And so taking that, I'm always looking for feedback from our apprentices and what we can do to make sure that nobody's like, I guess, feeling miserable their first year. Uh, and the pre-apprenticeship, I think, is like kind of the key to that. If someone's coming in with front-loaded knowledge, then they're less likely to quit in that first year just because instead of the embarrassment of not knowing how to use a tape measure or something like that, they've already mastered that coming out of our pre-apprenticeship and that they're excelling in that first year and we're not really losing them. So, sorry, I kind of lost myself in the thoughts of what I answered your question there, Jason.
Okay, no, it was good. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you to the panelists for answering those questions. And now we'll move over to the Wyoming apprenticeship team and we'll tackle some audience questions if we have any.
Thank you, Jason. So we do have just a couple questions. The first being that having access to the recordings to review materials afterwards. I know that this was answered in the chat as well, but the recording will be made available on the website, which is that dws.wyo.gov/VTS. So you should see that in the next couple of days. The next question that we have is we hear that there is a push for apprenticeships, but for example, there is a long waiting list to get into these programs. For example, the electrical programs. How is this being addressed at the DOL level and the employer level? So, Jason, if you could kind of start us off with that.
Yeah. So on my end, I don't control how many seats are available on the training for electrical programs or any programs for the matter. So those all programs they offer apprenticeships as the jobs are available. That's not controlled on my end. That's controlled strictly from the market and strictly from the employer. How they're going to address this, that's a good question. And if you want to, I can put you in touch with the actual training manager of that electrical program. Other than that, it's just as jobs available. It's very based on the market.
Awesome. And we have
Jason,
one.
this is Luke Sarn. Sorry to interrupt you there, Naomi.
Go
I,
ahead.
I just have to chime in really quick. I won't throw my face on the screen, but was the question specific to electrical apprenticeship?
That was one that was specifically mentioned in having a wait to get into programs, specifically in the electrical programs.
Yeah, I that's why I wanted to jump in, and I do apologize for interrupting. I'll keep it very short. I've heard some really good news in regards to the electrical apprenticeship and some non-union capabilities that'll allow for a lot more people to enter. because that is the backlog on the electrical side, is it's kind of, I mean, I'm sure Jason can speak to it, but I couldn't help but jump in and say that I believe there's movement to free up folks that want to get into the electrical apprenticeship, and it will be more through registered apprenticeship and not the union model. Not that that isn't a good one, but that's where the bottleneck is. That's my understanding. Thanks.
No, thanks, Luke, for that info. So that information wasn't privy to me. I don't have control on that side. I just took control on the registered apprenticeship side and directly with the apprenticeship team over there at the electrical JTC.
Okay, so our next question, it looks like the question says the time that is required is determined by the program. So is the time for the registered apprenticeship program, as I'm understanding the question to be that the time for the program is determined by the specific program?
Um, it's it's dependent on the occupation. I know that word comes out a lot. I'm sorry, it depends, but it each program's going to be different, and each program's going to have different occupations. So every occupation has a minimum amount of hours required. So we could have a 4-year program minimum, and it also depends on what type of program. So if you're time based, you're going to spend whatever time the program of the occupation is. So it could be a 1-year minimum, could be a 2-year minimum, could be a 3-year minimum based on the occupation. Now, there are some instances where we can get you graduated sooner, like such as a competency based. Now, if your program has a competency based occupation, it's just as you're retaining the information, how you're performing in the field, how you're doing with your RTI, and really it's based on your employer's evaluation of your performance, the apprentice's performance.
Okay. And one more question. It says, if our company operates across multiple states but is headquartered in Wyoming, could we register apprentices that are working in different states, or would we need to set up separate reps in each state we operate in?
No, it's truly up to the program. It depends on how long they're going to be working in that state. If it's very temporary, let's just say less than a year, more than likely you won't set up your own registered apprenticeship program. You will keep your Wyoming program, register your apprentices through the Wyoming program, and then you'll get with me and we will do a reciprocal application for the state. So I will get a hold of the state director, whether it's an SAA state or an OA state, which is a state agency or a federal OA state like Wyoming. And then we will go through the process together with the employer, and we will get the reciprocal agreement signed and dated and sent to the appropriate individuals per the program and the state that they're going to be working in. So no, you don't need to set up a program in each state. However, if you're going to be there in excess of a year, there's nothing wrong with, or 2 years or 3 years, whatever the project may be. There's nothing wrong with setting up a program and then later voluntarily canceling it.
Thank you. I will add to there, I know that Laura mentioned this in the comments in the chat, but if you are interested in utilizing the grant funding for apprenticeship programs through the Department of Workforce Services, you will have to be an active Wyoming registered program. So there is that caveat when it comes to the funding. In order to access our funding, you do have to be registered in Wyoming. Our next question, if a business has been paying for those classroom costs for their apprentices, would they be able to be reimbursed for those costs if they become a registered program, or can only individuals be reimbursed for learning costs? So I'll go ahead and answer this one. We have a grant fund within the Business Training and Support Unit that focuses on the reimbursing for the costs of that training. So that actually the grant functions in partnership with the sponsor itself, as well as with the training provider, that entity, that education entity. And through that partnership, that funding is able to be covered, being reimbursed to the applicant of that grant funding, which if you have any additional questions when it comes to some of that grant funding and understanding those parameters, we would be more than happy to set up a one-on-one meeting with you. So please feel free to reach out to us directly. And I see that Savannah has dropped information in the chat for the link to that specific grant. And then one last question. We don't have much time left. One last question. Would there ever be any apprenticeships for EMTs or paramedics? If our panel, I don't know if Jason, would you like to chime in on that one?
We can certainly build the program. I currently don't have any, but I mean, we do have apprenticeship programs for firefighters. We do have apprenticeship programs for law enforcement agencies. So there's nothing that says we can't, and we certainly can build that program. but I don't have any currently right now that I'm to my knowledge. Now, if you're a employer or you're a business manager or even someone that's wanting to do an apprenticeship in that occupation, we can certainly do it. There are apprentices in other states that have the EMT and paramedics. We just don't have one currently here, but we can certainly get the ball rolling and get a hold of me, and we can create that program.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. That seems like that's the end of our questions. So I will go ahead and pass it back to our comms team. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Thanks, Naomi. Before we wrap up, just a quick thank you to our Wyoming apprenticeship team for bringing this together and to our panelists and moderator for sharing your time and your real world insights. We really appreciate the time that you guys took to be here today and to present for us. So thank you. In the next few days, we will be sending out the recording along with a short survey, which we'll also be sharing in the chat. We really would appreciate if you could take a few moments to complete that. And while you're there, you'll also see, while you're working on that, you'll see a link to register for our next session. That is going to be on May 7th. We'll be hosting Moving Forward with Confidence, Understanding Your Unemployment Insurance Benefits. This is going to be a straightforward look at how to file and manage a claim, meet requirements, and navigate that process with confidence. So we hope to see you in May, and I thank you all for being here today. Have a great day.